Paul Heyman's with us.
Oh,
Talking about
is.
entertaining. WWE SmackDown this Friday night on Fox Sports 1 with an extra half hour. Hey, Paul, Mark Malusis, Maggie Gray. Thanks for a couple minutes this morning.
Hey, Paul Heyman is pissed off. Charles Barkley is the most entertaining guy on television. Come on.
Well, I mean, you paved the way, Paul. Just with that in mind, right? Can you give a couple tips to Gretzky? Like, he's the great one.
No.
But on TV, he just didn't really come through last night. What would Paul Heyman say to try to make Gretzky pop on television?
I'd say, Gretzky, you're fired, and I'd zoom in on his reaction as I replace him on the show.
There we go.
Paul, what's it like having, and it's been a while here since, but doing these shows without fans and now having the fans back in attendance?
Miraculous. I didn't have a problem doing the shows without fans because we kept on doing shows, and Major League Baseball wasn't doing shows. Hockey wasn't doing shows. The NFL wasn't doing shows. Soccer wasn't doing shows. Nobody was doing shows. We never missed a week of television. So if that's what it took to stay on the air, I was happy for us to do it. But oh my God, to have the audience back, to have that live interaction with the audience is just, as the expression would go, priceless.
Yeah. Paul Heyman is our guest. You've advocated for obviously some of the biggest names in wrestling. You become this excellent character. Now you're working with Roman Reigns. Can you compare Reigns to anyone else that you've worked with, Paul?
I can compare Reigns to himself. I would actually give the benefit to people like Gretzky, who was recognized as the greatest of all time. I could give the benefit of the doubt to Michael Jordan, who was the greatest of all time, and allow Jordan the compliment of being compared to Roman Reigns. I wouldn't compare Roman Reigns to anybody. I don't think there's anybody that has achieved his level of dominance to this degree since he has returned to WWE last August. And I think to compare him to somebody just demeans the accomplishments that Roman Reigns has made in WWE.
I'm just waiting for Brock Lesnar to crash into this interview.
Paul, why do you think he's had the love-hate relationship, or does that work for Roman with the fans?
Oh, hold on a minute. He's not here, is he?
By God? No, it's not.
What about Reigns? How about the love-hate relationship that he has with the fans?
Listen, I don't think it's a love-hate relationship or even a hate-love relationship. I think like everything else Abraham Lincoln didn't have 100% approval rating, and he goes down in history as the greatest president of all time. Nobody gets 100% approval rating. Roman Reigns is the most dominant champion in WWE in WWE history. His 56 weeks right now as champion has been unparalleled. There are going to be people that simply admire greatness, and they're going to sit there and say, this is the guy. Okay, now we understand, and now we see what a greatest of all time, what a GOAT truly is. He will demonstrate that tomorrow night on FS1, starting at 8 o'clock Eastern time. There are those who sit there and they are jealous and they are envious of his success, of his greatness. And then, I don't like Roman Reigns. I don't like anything about him. Okay, great. It's like when the Yankees are the most dominant baseball team ever, and everybody starts to nitpick, the Yankees, the Schmankies. We hated George Steinbrenner. Come on. There comes a time where you just respect the greatness that is before you.
Wow. Jordan, Gretzky, the Yankees,
Roman Reigns.
Abraham Lincoln. This is some really good company that Roman Reigns is keeping, and Paul Heyman is our guest. Paul, flip it around just a little bit. What's the nicest compliment that a superstar or wrestler can give to you? Like, what would make you say, like, wow, thank you, I appreciate that? What's the nicest thing they could say about you?
That they have inside word that Maggie has a crush on me.
Don't flatter yourself, Paul.
But I do all the time. But I do flatter myself all the time because I sure can't wait for others to do it.
Well, that's going to be for sure. And I'm probably one of those people. But really, you don't have, like, if someone that you're working with says, did they ever say thank you?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know.
I've been through a lot of depositions. Direct question, direct answer.
Yeah, that's it.
Let's talk more about that.
Well, Paul, how is the sport changed when you look at wrestling? Now and obviously the pandemic changed everything, but having fans back in attendance, but grabbing the wrestling fan now as compared to where the WWE was 5, 10, 15 years ago.
It's always going to be more challenging, and it's always going to be more rewarding on the flip side if you do grab the attention of the audience. There are going to be infinite more channels that offer infinite more sports. You go on TV today, and if you want to see a soccer match from Auckland, New Zealand, or a tennis match that's taking place in Rio de Janeiro or in Zimbabwe, you can. So I mean, the choices are infinite to a sports fan or an entertainment fan. Vince McMahon has a saying where our competition includes the all-night gas station. Everything is out there. Either we get your attention or we don't. So that's the challenge today. Can we get everybody's attention or anybody's attention? And if we do we reward them with a good product that they tell their friends about it and come back the next week?
Do you ever feel like you have to punch up the storylines or everything even more when you are, you mentioned like New Zealand soccer, but closer to home when you're going Monday night head to head with the NFL and Monday Night Football? Is there a feeling that you got to bring it extra during this time of year?
I think every time you're on television or on radio or that you're in the public eye, every single performance is an audition to be invited back by the audience the next day.
Yeah.
You're only as good as your worst performance.
Yeah. No, I feel that you're preaching to the choir here with people who do.
So
do
tomorrow night,
shows.
SmackDown, Fox Sports 1, extra half hour for the WWE fan. Paul, what is the WWE and what's the wrestling fan going to get tomorrow night?
Oh, what the WWE fan is going to get is quite simple. The three biggest names in sports entertainment today: Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman. And something is going to happen because it's just a combustible situation.
Paul, I always wonder, because you spent a lifetime really in this business, right? Is there anything you would go back and advice you would give your younger self going back to, the ECW days? Just, is there something now as the wisdom that you have now that you would want to tell your younger self?
Yes. Don't change a damn thing.
No regrets.
It all works out just fine.
Paul, the promos you cut are just like unbelievable. I mean, they just are. They're just amazing. Yep. Can you on short notice cut a promo for us?
I could.
Please?
Would you? I guess.
What's that kind of a promo about? I mean, what's the subject matter? Who we ripping into?
Well, how about
what
this?
Are we selling
Moose
here?
and Maggie are basically the Paul Heyman of the fan.
Right.
So we have this special quality, Lincoln.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. I serve as special counsel for the undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion Roman Reigns. I have been asked by Moose and Maggie to advocate their position on WFAN. First of all, I never listen to WFAN because we all know that besides WWE, all sports are predetermined. Just ask Pete Rose. So now that I'm here on the radio and on video, and why I'm doing video on the radio, I have absolutely no idea. It doesn't make sense to me. My kids tell me all the time that radio is now on video, but then why do you call it radio? It's not radio anymore. It's video. If you really want to know the right answers, you tune in tomorrow night to FS1, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, not necessarily in that billing order for the starring roles, and you will see it all go down. And then Monday, if they have any taste, which I heard that they don't, Moose and Maggie will have me back on Monday to tell you how great it was if you missed it, which you better not, because if you do, the tribal chief Roman Reigns will send the Usos after you.
Bravo.
And that's
Paul,
not a prediction.
Great job,
Wow.
Paul.
On the
Thank you,
spot.
Paul. Thank you. That
On
was
the spot.
great. That was awesome. On the spot. You're
There.
a maestro. We appreciate it, Paul. Have a good show tomorrow night, all right? And thanks for the time this morning.
Pleasure was all mine.
Thanks,
you got
Paul.
it. The great Paul Heyman.
Nice. You clipped that? Got a new open.
I never listen to Sports Talk Radio. We could cut that out.
I think that gets displayed prominently in the front.